Good morning, dear listener. Welcome to the Marriott Breakfast Show. We are live at the Marriott Huahin Resort and Spa at the Siam Bakery for another 2 hours plus remaining of broadcasting history. Our guest today, for want of a better expression, our guest today is David Frohlich, who's the founding member of Snakes of Huahin, the Facebook page, which is the essential guide to what slithering thing is in your garden and whether you should run for the hills or just pick it up and put it somewhere else. So we'll talk to David shortly. Please stay tuned and enjoy the program on Surf Radio. Good morning to you and welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
No problem at all. It's a pleasure to have you here. Richard's also here. He's going to throw in a few words here and there. So, David, the term herpetologist means somebody who is a snake expert and has studied and got qualifications in studying snakes, etc., etc. You're not a herpetologist, are you?
No, I've never studied it at university or anything, but I consider myself more of a hobby herpetologist. It's a great passion of mine, and I spend just about every second of my free time reading and researching about the animals in my own time, so I do know quite a few things. You obviously love snakes, and you've become an expert over the years that you've been running these various Facebook pages, yes? Yes, they have consumed 99.9% of my brain.
I've got a question. How did you actually get into finding out about snakes in the first place? What sparked your interest?
So I've always been the outdoors kid, and I've always had a great fascination for pretty much anything that's alive. But the specific interest in snakes began when I was around 8. We moved to South Africa, and on the first day that we arrived there, we went to the hotel, and on the parking lot, my mother stepped on and got bit by a snake.
Oops.
Oh.
And that kind of sent me down a rabbit hole of reading about them, watching videos about them, and then one thing kind of led to another, and before I knew it, I was out looking for them deliberately. And, yeah.
How long have you been in Huahin? Because you said to me before we started that you were born in Germany.
No. My parents are both German. I was born in the U.S., and I grew up in the U.S., South Africa, Thailand, and Spain.
And how long have you been in Thailand?
Almost 12 years.
Wow. Okay. And this interest in snakes has obviously followed you around the world wherever you've gone.
Yeah.
Are the snakes in Thailand particularly interesting to study? Because there's obviously quite a lot of them.
Yeah, Thailand has a really good diversity of snakes, and it's for someone who's interested in reptiles, it's one of the best countries in the world by far.
Okay, that sounds really scary. It's the Marriott Breakfast Show live from the Siam Bakery. Our guest today is David Frohlich from the Facebook page Snakes of Huahin. David, when did you set up Snakes of Huahin? Was it your first Facebook page?
It was shortly after creating my Facebook account and learning that there's such thing as a Facebook group that you can create. I don't know exactly when it was, but it was short after moving here, so around 10 years ago now, I would say.
And the original purpose of the Facebook page was to show people snakes, no doubt. Or was it already that service where people could, post a picture and say, what's this?
That was the goal for it from the start. It all started out, I lived down in Koh Tao at the time with my parents, and I was just a child. And our neighbor knew that I liked those sort of critters, and they called me, they rang my parents and said, there's a snake in the garden if I want to come see it. So I ran over 3 houses down the road as fast as I could, but by the time I got there, the gardener had already killed it.
Oh, no.
And that greatly upset me as a kid, and it kind of just made me think if there's any way that I can prevent this from happening, because I figured if it's happening here, it's probably happening every day somewhere.
Right. Okay. So I've used the service a couple of times. I've had a rat snake that I took a photo of with some friends who...
Anybody you know?
Who were no.
That's all right then. Just checking.
My friends were terrified of this thing, so I took a photograph of it and posted it on Snakes of Huahin. And then last week we had a vine snake, which is a beautiful bright green...
Yeah.
Well, you explain, David. What is a vine snake?
Yeah, it's one of probably, if not the most common snake to kind of get in urban settings around Huahin. They're common in... I bet I could find one outside in the garden here if I tried.
Yeah.
It's a small, harmless colubrid. They are mildly venomous, but their venom is not designed to affect large
predators like us.
So to a human, the worst consequence that a bite may have is a bit of itchiness or something like that. So for the most part, totally harmless to us, and they're pretty shy as well.
Are most snakes fairly harmless?
Yeah, the vast majority are, although there are several species in Thailand that are potentially quite dangerous.
Worth avoiding.
As
right.
long as they
Yeah.
don't bite you, they're safe.
So in general, if it's a bigger snake, is it more likely to be dangerous than a little one?
No, the venomous ones are... There's a few venomous species that do get fairly large. We, in fact, have the largest venomous snake in the world here in Thailand, the king cobra.
Thanks for that.
That one reaches just over 5 meters in some
Right.
cases.
5 meters.
But then a lot of the venomous snakes are also really small, like your little Malayan pit vipers and such.
How does our listener go about using your page as a service rather than just for information?
Right, so if you live in Huahin, the Snakes of Huahin Facebook group is a public group. Anyone can join it. And pretty much, say for example, you have a snake in your house or garden, or even you just saw it crossing the road somewhere. All you pretty much got to do is snap a photo, upload it to the group, and generally within 1 to 3 minutes or so, someone will comment and tell you exactly what species of snake it is, whether or not it's dangerous or harmless. And if it's dangerous, and in your house, for example, we can always assist with getting someone out there to remove it for you as well.
How many people help you?
We have now, I would guess, around 25 to 30 admins in the group, which consist of snake enthusiasts based all around the world. So pretty much no matter what time someone posts, someone's going to be online to see it and give a response fairly quickly.
You mentioned before that you have other snakes of Facebook pages. It's not just Snakes of Huahin, is it? How many other Facebook pages do you have?
So it started out with just Snakes of Huahin because this is where I lived, but then it quickly gained popularity, and I thought this could actually be a good model to expand. And now we have Snakes of Chiang Mai, Bangkok, Pattaya, Isan, Huahin, Koh Samui, Phuket, Peninsula Malaysia, Singapore, Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, and a few others as well that some of the other admins have kind of made on their own that I said, this is too much for me, I don't want to get involved. But there's even more beyond that.
What is the most common snake of Huahin, for example?
There's a few contendants which could be dubbed the most common snake of Huahin. Those include the golden tree snake, the vine snakes, your rat snakes, and probably your kukri snakes, I would say, are by far the most frequently encountered snake in urban areas.
All right, and for those of you listening in various areas of Huahin, where is Snake Hotspot Central?
Generally, as you get a bit further from the busy town center, there will be more. So there's like Hin Lek Phai, just out Soi 102, Samor Prong, those sort of areas are where we get the most pictures posted from. But of course, you can also get snakes directly in the city center as well.
Are you more likely to find one particular type of snake around the house? I mean, are some snakes attracted to houses rather than just the fields?
Yeah, there are certain snakes which, for example, you could only find in undisturbed habitats, like the king cobra, for example. That one is very shy, and you wouldn't be very likely to find it around houses. Whereas there's other types of snakes, like your kukri snakes and rat snakes, which actually adapt very well to disturbance and are actually more common around urban areas than they would be out in the jungle, just because, for one, they have a lack of competition of other species of snake living in the same area. And of course, people are quite messy. We leave animal food out, we leave rubbish out, which attracts rats, which in turn attracts snakes. So we actually non-willingly create an ideal sort of environment for certain species of snake.
But this is such a kind of a unique service. Are there other Facebook groups like this around the world?
I'm not sure if there's any other groups that operate exactly like we do. I know there's loads of different Snake ID Facebook groups, but as far as I know, none of them are this location specific. And I think it's actually really good to have them location specific, because one of our objectives is to get members to actually learn about the local species in their area. And although there's a lot of snakes across Thailand, Thailand has over 240 species of snake.
Wow.
Not all 240 of those are going to be around Huahin.
Right.
So across Thailand, you get 240 roughly. In Huahin, there's only going to be around 30 different species.
Okay.
So if we have these like localized groups, it's a way smaller array of species that people have to try and learn and memorize.
Right. Some of the snakes, I have noticed some of the comments that your admins have made on the Facebook page, some of the snakes are actually protected by Thai law, aren't they?
That is correct. The rat snakes, all of the pythons, the sunbeam snake, and the king cobra are protected under Thai law.
So basically that means if you're scared and you kill it, you could actually be in serious trouble.
Theoretically, yes, although I've never seen that law actually enforced whatsoever, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, there's snakes and so on that I've seen. Some of the photos on your Facebook page are actually of dead snakes. So presumably some people have said, oh yes, it must have been dead when we got there, or my dogs killed it, or my cats had a go at it. Seeing those pictures there of roadkill type snakes, it was not a very pleasant thing to see. But how can we be more educated about whether or not this is a dangerous snake or not? I mean, there are some, you've mentioned there are some venomous snakes here in Huahin, but how can there be more education on whether or not, to save the snake and call you and pick it up?
If you already know if you, for example, have a snake and you know it's harmless, we always try to advise people to coexist and just leave the snake be. And that even goes for venomous snakes, provided you don't have like a dog living in the garden who will go and get bit by it. Generally, I always have like this like step-by-step thing that I tell people, like, you see a snake, and people ask if it's dangerous. My first question is, are you leaving it alone? If yes, then no, it's not dangerous. And if you're not leaving it alone, does the snake have a way to escape from you? If yes, then it's not dangerous, because snakes are not aggressive. And if given the chance, they will always choose to avoid you rather than bite you. Biting people is actually a last resort defense measure from snakes when they see no other way out.
Right.
I have a very short question, and that is that if you're out in the countryside, and I used to go flying in a model airplane with my kid. Of course, it would land in the middle of the marshes. But what are the chances of you actually stepping on a snake if you're meandering through the fields?
So stepping on snakes is one of the leading causes of snakebite right after people attempting to catch or kill snakes. Because certain species of snake, like for instance the Malayan pit viper, they are not very fast and they rely on camouflage to avoid danger. So when the Malayan pit viper sees someone approaching, a lot of the time its instinct will just be to stay put because it looks just like the ground. So there is a fair chance of accidentally stepping on one.
David, we were talking before the break. Richard asked you about, stepping on snakes and so on, and you said the Malayan pit viper is one that kind of camouflages itself on the ground. Give us a rundown from most dangerous to least dangerous, if you can, within about a minute and a half, of the snakes that we're likely to find here.
So I would say the Malayan pit viper definitely poses the largest threat to the average person, simply because it doesn't move out your way a lot of the time and you can easily step on it. Every other snake, you to pretty much deliberately be messing with it in order to get bit. Cobras, the king cobra, and the Malayan crate, they are all extremely unlikely to bite someone without the person actively messing with it.
You've mentioned Malayan there, but how come so many snakes from Malaysia are allowed in Thailand?
So that's a common misconception, that the Malayan pit viper is named after Malaysia, but it's not the Malaysian pit viper, it's the Malayan, named after Malaya, which refers to the whole region rather than just the country.
Right, that was my sarcasm going on there. Where are you most likely to find a cobra, for example? There are several different types of cobras here as well, aren't there? It's not just the
Correct.
king cobra.
We have 3 cobras in the Huahin area. The king cobra, which is by far the rarest, followed by the monocled cobra, and the dominant species of cobra in the area is the Siamese spitting cobra.
Right. How easy is it to be able to determine, as a kind of a semi-layman, about whether or not the snake you're looking at is dangerous?
It's not that difficult if you spend some time to familiarize yourself with the 30 or so odd snakes in the area. You don't even need to learn all of them. Pretty much you only need to learn the 5 dangerous ones that we get in the area, and then any snake you see, which you can exclude it from being one of the 5 dangerous ones, will by default be non-dangerous.
I'm Andy Curtis, and this is Surf Radio. Our guest today here at the Siam Bakery is David Frohlich, who's the founder of Snakes of Huahin, the Facebook page, the essential Facebook page if you happen to trip over a snake. Tripping over a snake, David, is probably not a smart thing to do. But we mentioned before we went for the news about there being 5 venomous snakes in Huahin. How do you tell the difference? Because there's several that kind of disguise themselves to look like a venomous snake.
Yeah, there are some, of course, that have similar patterns and colors to the venomous ones. But if you actually take the time to sit down and closely look at photos of each of the dangerous ones, you should be able to recognize them again if you saw them somewhere. The 5 dangerously venomous ones that we have in the area, first and foremost, the king cobra. Although that one is extremely rare, I'm actively looking for them, and I've only ever found 2 in Huahin in 12 years. So the chance of running into one of those is next to nothing.
Excellent.
And then you get into the slightly more common stuff, such as the Malayan crate, which is still reasonably rare. Then the monocled cobra, which is also pretty rare. And the only 2 dangerously venomous ones that are actually pretty common are the Siamese spitting cobra and Malayan pit viper.
Right.
Those are 98% of venomous snake sightings in the area.
Can I ask, how would you identify those?
So the Siamese spitting cobra is generally around 80 centimeters to a meter or so long, probably a bit less than wrist thick, possibly like a broomstick in girth, and jet shiny black. And of course, if you go near it and it feels agitated, it will rear its head up off the ground and spread that very typical cobra hood.
Oh, they have a hood as well?
Yeah.
So this is the spitting cobra?
Yeah.
And what about the Malayan pit viper? What does that look like?
The Malayan pit viper is reasonably small, usually no more than about 40 or so centimeters, about as thick as a finger.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it's they come in a few different shades, but usually they're anywhere from gray, brown to yellowish, tan brown. And they have these little black triangles all along the dorsum pointing directly towards the spine.
Right.
It's a reasonably easy snake to identify. They also have a very distinct head from the neck. And the head is very pointed and triangular in shape. Yes, and of course all pit vipers are venomous, but then when you get into elapids, such as your kraits, coral snakes, and cobras, those do not have a triangular shaped head.
What happens if you do get bitten by a snake in Huahin? What would you suggest is the best course of action if you were to be attacked by one?
Right, so if you got bit by a snake and the snake is sticking around, try and take a clear photo of it to show the doctors or our Facebook group or whoever. But if, for example, you've been bit and the snake has immediately disappeared, don't waste any time trying to look for it, because once you get to the hospital, they'll run a blood test and they'll be able to tell what bit you anyway. So at that point, you're just losing time. So if the snake is there, yeah, take a photo. If it's not there, just try to keep yourself as calm as possible. Avoid running around, getting into some sort of panic. Just calmly get yourself to a hospital as fast as possible.
Are the hospitals well equipped to deal with snake bites?
Yes, Thailand is actually probably the best place in Southeast Asia to be bit by a venomous snake. They have a very effective antivenom for all of the commonly encountered dangerous snakes, definitely all the ones in our area.
Fantastic. Well, that's a bit of a relief, isn't it? Well, let's talk some more. Let's take a little break, and we'll talk some more with David Frohlich from Snakes of Huahin Facebook page in a moment. We're all scared of snakes, except for people like yourself. So do you do talks at schools? Are schools contacting you to invite you to educate?
Yes, I don't have all the time in the world myself, but whenever I do get free time and the schedules align, I do try to make an effort to go out to schools and do little presentations, bring a few live snakes, and kind of just get people more familiar and comfortable with the snakes in the area, because it really is a learned fear. And I've observed this a lot of times when I go to schools and stuff, that generally the younger the children are, the less scared they are of snakes by default. So it really is a fear that you learn to be scared of.
Well, where are you likely to see those venomous snakes? I mean, the Malayan pit viper and the spitting cobra.
Those do turn up in people's backyards all the time. Sometimes they find their way into houses, but the cobra is reasonably shy and will try its best to get away from you whenever possible. The only real one that you might step on is the Malayan pit viper. But I always tell people, if you've spotted the snake, the danger should be over, because now you know it's there and you can stay far enough away from it to avoid any problems. I don't recommend anyone go and try to catch the snake or kill it, because that's actually one of the leading causes how people get bit. If they go and actively try to kill the snake, of course that's gonna scare the snake and it will try to defend itself by biting.
Is it possible, I don't know if this is a myth or not, but I know this is a nasty subject, but if you do detach a head from a snake, it can still bite you, no?
That is true, yes. When snakes are killed, they move for sometimes several hours after that, and they can still bite.
And they remain venomous.
Yes, I actually know a case of someone who, this was in the US, he had a rattlesnake in his garden, chopped off its head, threw it into the bushes, and like a week later he was walking around barefoot and stepped on the head and managed to get himself bit by the detached head of the rattlesnake.
Have you ever been bitten?
Yeah, I've been bit a couple times by venomous ones, by non-venomous ones, almost every day.
Almost every day?
Yeah.
Right, so I suppose if you find a snake in your garden, get onto Facebook, Snakes of Huahin, and let David deal with it. Don't try and deal with it yourself. David, let's give you the opportunity to offer up a message to our listener about how they can get hold. And what's the process if you see a snake, apart from don't panic? What's the process, and how do they get hold of you if they think they need you to come and pick up the snake?
Yeah, so the process is really just take a as clear photo as possible, post it in the group, and within minutes someone will tell you what it is. Should it be something dangerous, we will advise you on how to proceed, or send someone out to come collect the snake.
Okay, I mean, I've noticed that there are lots and lots of admins there that are, watching the page on a regular basis. It's kind of a busy Facebook page, but people do come up very, very quickly and tell you what the snake is.
Yeah, it's gotten really fast, for one, because we have so many admins, but also because over the years now, a lot of just the normal members have become so familiar with Snake ID in our area that a lot of the times I'll open a post and some random member will already have correctly ID'd it for someone.
All right, and you actually, it seems that you get the Latin name and you get the full explanation of what the snake is, and it's a fascinating thing. I think it's an invaluable service, and I have to say hats off to you for providing the service, and I wish you all the very, very best of luck with the page. Try not to get bitten.
Thank you very much.
David Frohlich has been our guest this morning from Snakes of Huahin, and a fascinating Facebook page. Go and check it out and have a look, and if you find a snake, post a picture and let us know. We want to see it. The news headlines is next with Richard, and we'll be back with James Blunt after this.
Visit